SEO Basics and Best Practices. I am Blaine Bowers. I work with Geek Powered Studios.
And I'm Jesse McDonald. I'm the Director of SEO at Geek Powered Studios. This is us. So, like I said, I'm the Director of SEO at Geek Powered Studios. I frequently go to conferences that are industry related and kind of talk about SEO, some new things in the industry. I'm also pretty frequently on some industry related podcasts. So if you decide that you are super interested in SEO, let me know. These are some good ones to check out, as I've been on them, so I can really vouch for them. And interestingly enough, before I got into SEO, I was actually working to be a print-based graphic designer that vowed to never work in web. I now have worked in web for 4 years and do no print-based graphic design, but I have a BFA in graphic design, so me and this dude get along really well at the office.
Yeah, it's definitely worked out. I am the creative director at Geek Powered Studios. I've got about 14 years of web design experience. I've won an Addy Award. I was thinking about it earlier today, and I don't remember what I won it for. It was a while ago.
Been a while?
Yeah. What is SEO?
Now, going into this, since I've heard that you guys are kind of some web people, do any of you know what SEO is? Do any of you think you know what SEO is?
Search engine optimization.
Exactly. Do you know what that means?
Manipulating search engine ranks to rank yourself above the rest.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, like you said, SEO, it stands for search engine optimization. It's really the practice of getting a website up into the tubes that Al Gore calls the internet, and then getting people to find your website, be it through Google, Bing, Yahoo, and even as things like social media become more and more relevant into our kind of everyday existence, they also somewhat act as search engines. In Google, there's a set of things called search operators that allow you to narrow down searches. You can actually do the exact same thing in Twitter and find topical information for what you're looking for. So really what you're trying to do is drive traffic through your site. The ultimate question is, how do you do that? There are several factors that go into pushing your site forward in rankings for Google or social media. Those things can include on-page optimization, off-site SEO, which would include links, sharing through social, blog posts that you're mentioned in, and local citations, which can come through things like Yelp. And then just having an excellent user experience, which, if you want to speak to that a little.
Yeah, and user experience is something that Google has started recently to rank sites with. I think as of now, it's just the mobile experience.
More or less. So about this time last year, Google made an announcement that when it crawls a website to look at it and start determining factors, it looks at the mobile version now and not the desktop version. So user experience is key.
But that's really exciting for us as designers because we often joke at work about how all the SEO members kind of write websites so robots pick them up and can rank that way. It's really exciting that Google is starting to use user experience as a ranking factor because we as designers kind of have a lot more influence that way in where a page ranks within Google. So user experience is very important.
So how should a page work? The first thing that you want to consider is page hierarchy. I'm sure through your classes you've kind of learned some coding stuff and have heard about header tags, correct? Does anyone know what a header tag is used for? It's supposed to be utilized for?
Well, they would say the back information, not back information, not displayed information.
Kind of. So when I took web, SEO wasn't really a top of mind thing, so my teacher was like, yeah, header tags just make things bigger or smaller. Then getting into SEO, realizing how incorrect that actually is. So it's setting up your page so that you know that the most important information is up at the top through your H1, which is telling you this is what your page is about. Then breaking that down into categories utilizing H2s and then H3s to break that down as well. So while you can have a design aesthetic that engages the user, it's also very important from a back-end coding perspective when crawling a website. And then doing that, having your images optimized, and then having content above the fold, which, as you can see right there, the box that's highlighted, which this is our website, this has content above the fold to inform what the page is about, and then as the user scrolls down, they get more information and start digging into the meat of what we're actually trying to display to them with this page.
And that's one thing that, as a designer, I've always had issues with is, like, this is a website. It's not a damn newspaper, you know? There is no fold. But in reality, there kind of is. I mean, the above-the-fold content is your first impression of that website. You need to get any information that the user's going to be looking for, that you think a user might be looking for, above that fold, so they get the answer they're looking for right away. I mean, oftentimes I'll go to a website and if what I'm looking for isn't there, I'll just leave. Somebody else has it above the fold somewhere that's easily accessible.
Which, that's what we were talking about a second ago, where we were saying that Google looks at the user experience of a site. They want to see that people are putting in questions, getting your site as the answer, and then either utilizing your content and engaging with it, or if they're bouncing straight off the page, that means you're not delivering them what they're looking for, which means you shouldn't rank for whatever search query this is involved with. So, and then also, when we were talking about the mobile aspect of things, this is where things get really interesting because you essentially create a fold for several different experiences. So you want to make sure that that experience matches up across the board, which becomes very difficult.
And going back to page hierarchy, I think your H1s and H2s and H3s are just as important for the user experience as they are for the robots that scrape the sites. Not only does it tell the robot exactly what the page is about, but it tells the user what the page is about and breaks down the subsections.
So in the, I guess you would say, the game of SEO, content is incredibly important. Content being the text you put on a page, the images and media that you have on the page, and how you utilize them. So content plays a gigantic role in both the user experience and the robot experience. When Google or anything that crawls your website gets to your site, it looks at how you have your page laid out and what you're delivering. So you want to make sure that you have topical content. It gets onto the page and goes through what is known as latent semantic indexing, also known as LSI, to figure out what you're talking about and relative searches that you could show up for. So as you see here, we have some highlights on our page where we're talking about the SEO services that we offer to our clients and potential clients. So we have SEO as a keyword, marketing as a keyword, local businesses, because that's who we're really targeting, effective SEO. It's basically getting all the adjectives that you're looking for, turning them into keywords. So if someone in Austin was saying, I'm looking for ethical SEO, maybe we would come up for that, or that's the goal. And then they already have built a sense of trust because we are showing up for exactly what they're looking for, and then can deliver them either the product or service that they might have made that search for.
The images that you use within your content are very important as well. They need to be relevant, and pairing captions with them usually helps. Again, just from a user aspect. From the robot's perspective, it's good to name the images very descriptively. That way, if somebody searches for a specific kind of images and clicks on the image tab, you know, your image might show up, and they might click visit page, and they might end up on your website based on an image search that they did.
Using coding best practices is also crucial for images, because while Google and other search engines, forgive me if I'm a little biased to Google, while they are really smart and you can put an image into Google Plus or Google My Business and it'll say, oh, this person's holding a bass guitar, and like gets super specific on its own, if you give it an alt attribute that describes what the image is doing, it gives them a better idea of exactly what's going on. So then that helps with search as well. And one note that I forgot during the content portion of this, that same thing goes with keywords. Google's super smart, so when we make a page or a website, we do what's known as keyword research. We see the competition and kind of ferocity within the market for said keyword, how many people are searching for it within a month time period, and then we also make some predictions for our paid campaigns as well to see what kind of our budget should look like. But back in the day with SEO, you could put a bunch of keywords on your page, Google would read it, and you would show up in searches. It's not that easy anymore. Now, things are keyword focused, but it's based on delivering excellent content. So that's something to always keep in mind. Old practice used to be just stuff a bunch of keywords onto a page, hope for the best.
Yeah, that's why you see on some websites at the very bottom it'll be like a black background, and then there'll be a super dark gray text, really small, and it'll just be a bunch of weird words. And that's keyword stuffing, and Google doesn't like that anymore.
You can actually get penalized for that, and your website just won't show up at all anymore. So,
all your content needs to make sense for the user.
what'd you do then?
So, what is a user experience? Good user experience is actionable, relatable, and delightful. Good UX can help with increasing conversion rates, creating the right product or service, maintaining customer loyalty and brand trust. Basically, with a good UX, you just want to give the user what they're looking for and make it easy for them to find. If they have to go digging through your site to find a phone number or something like that, they might just leave and go somewhere else.
So navigation kind of plays into the user experience. You want to have a well laid out, excellent navigation that both users and, yet again, search engines can make sense of your website. Someone hits a page through a Google search, they read your content, and maybe they want to know more about what else you've got going on. So they're going to try and flow through, and you want to keep them on your website to fulfill whatever goal you're trying to achieve. Anything on that?
So yeah, just make sure that within navigating a site, it's good to have consistent navigation and link styles. Like if you go to one page and all the links are blue, and then you go to another page and for some reason all the links are green, you might not think they're links if you're on the same website. So keeping things consistent allows the user to easily navigate.
And here's something that we look at a lot. This is the behavior flow section in Google Analytics. We have Google Analytics for all of our websites. This tells you how people hit your website, and then, so the green is people hitting this certain page. This image shows drop off on the page. When you hover over it, it tells you a specific number of people left this page immediately and how long they were on. But then the chart also shows you how they're flowing through. So once you build a website, it's important to keep up with your analytics to figure out exactly how your website is performing and maybe identifying some pain points that you can work on fixing. Because a lot of people think SEO is this kind of set it and forget it mentality. But if you work on it consistently, you're constantly improving and delivering your users exactly what they're looking for, or at least your best guess of what they're looking for. With site navigation also comes link equity. One really important aspect of SEO is links. It's kind of like what we mentioned earlier is the off-page signals. Pretend like you're writing a research paper. Whoever's reading it gets to the very end of whatever you're trying to explain, and you have no citations. Basically, it's hard to give credibility to what you're saying. So if you think of links as almost creating citations of the importance of your content to your website, it ends up being a factor in pushing you up in rankings. Yet again, like we mentioned earlier with keyword stuffing, just building a bunch of really horrible links back in the day would end up ranking you. As Google's gotten smarter and SEOs have spammed their way through the rankings, Google has created ways to kind of gauge quality of said links. So let's say we are building links for our personal website and we build a bunch of, I guess, links on McDonald's.com somehow. That's not really relevant to a digital marketing company in Austin. But let's say you mentioned doing a blog earlier that you would write about this. Linking to us would have a value because it's topical about what we're doing. It's topical within the aspect of SEO and how design relate to each other. So it ends up being this weighted thing from an offsite perspective. Now, you also have internal linking that works almost like site navigation. You're reading a blog about a dentist in Austin. You're reading their root canal page and they talk about, let's say, teeth whitening. Let's say in that paragraph, you link the words teeth whitening, which is considered anchor text, to a teeth whitening page that gives more valuable content related to that subject. You're giving your users a flow, and then giving that link that you've, let's say, built to this root canal page a way to funnel into the teeth whitening and give it some more equity. So it works the same as navigation from a robot perspective as well. You're giving it more power throughout your website.
And it also allows the user just easier ways to get content that they're looking for.
Here's a diagram that we've used for a long time to kind of explain how link equity works. Some people in the industry call it link juice, which is really hilarious. Some people are very mad that they call it link juice. So when you're building links, pages, like I said, have a certain quality about them. There are different metrics that you can look at, which aren't, it's really hard to say exactly what goes into a good link. I've always joked that doing good SEO is the art of not being an idiot. It's just making really good decisions, making good topical decisions to sites that obviously aren't trying to do spammy tactics. But when you build links to your pages, like I mentioned earlier, if you have good links throughout your site going internally, you're going to get some more of that quality passing through the pages. And that's why an architecture that makes sense for both users and robots is crucial to the success of an SEO campaign and a website in general. So there are several ways that you can stand out in SERPs, which SERPs stands for Search Engine Result Page. This is when you go into Google and you say spaghetti restaurant in Austin, the results that you get for that are considered SERPs. Obviously, the thing that I grew up with, and is kind of the most consistent, is the just standard results, where you see the blue link and then a short description under that. You can use metadata to influence how those show up. So you're almost creating your first line of defense to getting people to your site. Using a meta title and a meta description, Google will look at it and potentially use it if you kind of follow standard guidelines for it, but at the end of the day, they're going to kind of do whatever they want and show what makes sense to what they believe users are looking for. You also have paid ads, which that's what I was talking about earlier. We have a paid department, and usually most digital marketing companies do. This is where they run what's known as PPC. That stands for pay per click. So they kind of go through the same thing, but in more of an ad perspective. So they're creating things with call to actions, deals, things that'll make people click on the ad, go to the landing page, and initially convert. And then one big thing that's been happening over the past few years is the increased importance of the map listings. So you did search for spaghetti restaurant in Austin. More than likely at the top of the page, you're going to get a map listing, which can then lead you to moving forward in the getting directions, ordering online, seeing reviews. So all of these things are super crucial to focus on from an organic SEO perspective. And then things like instant answers, media results, and what's known as the knowledge graph. If you went on and did Art Institute of Austin in Google, on the right-hand side, things should pop up that has pictures of the Art Institute. It'll have the logo. It should say a short description, times that it's open, reviews if there are any, and give you just kind of some more things to move forward through. So this is something that SEOs are always considering and trying to make happen for the websites that they're working for. And we work with mainly local businesses, like small to medium local businesses. So this is incredibly crucial to our day-to-day process.
Yeah, these SERPs really point out how Google is moving toward user experience as a ranking. I mean, if you search for spaghetti restaurant Austin, you're obviously looking for a spaghetti restaurant somewhere in Austin. And getting a map is exactly what you want to see. You want to see what's close to you. You want to see the little stars that you can see here. And, you know, like, rate all these restaurants. Which ones are the best? And I don't have to go to an actual website. I get all this information directly from Google. But using SERPs is how you get that information from your website into this information, into this user experience, I guess.
So when I have instant answers on this, that's when you would put a question into Google like, what is SEO? And then at the very top, right before the ads, right before any of the organic listings, it would say something like SEO stands for search engine optimization. It also means, you know, blah, blah, blah. That's an instant answer. So jokingly in the field, it's been known as position 0 for the last couple of years. So that's kind of the dream. Make sure that you get an instant answer. And kind of as we've talked about, and it's kind of become true over the past few years, the user becomes more and more crucial to SEO efforts. Speed is key. We've kind of created a society and mental thought process of if it doesn't happen now, we'll move on to someone who can make it happen now. So when you're building a website, you want to make sure that you are optimizing for speed. First thing to always be cautious of, especially if you're building in a platform like WordPress, code bloat is a thing. This is when you're using unnecessary code and calling JavaScript and CSS from a bunch of different places in your headers, and that will slow down your website. So you want to be as bare bones as you possibly can be, because, like I said, if you're delivering a bad, slow website to a user, Google's going to pick up on that and not show you as often as you would hope.
And this can be pretty hard to do as a designer. I don't know how deep into code you guys are. Being a mainly WordPress designer, we use a lot of plugins, and so there ends up being a lot of JavaScript files that get attached and a lot of CSS files. And so it's good to research plugins and research themes before you actually start using them. Images are very important to optimize as well. Photoshop will get you so far as far as optimizing images and reducing their file size, but there are a lot of other services out there like TinyPNG that allow you to upload your photos, and it'll remove a lot of like exif information, and it removes a lot of stuff, and you can drastically reduce your file size that way. Typefaces are another thing to be wary of. Some typefaces are pretty heavy, and they'll eat the browser.
If you can get away with it, try and use default operating system based fonts. While they can be a little bit boring and not as wonderful as Google fonts, they take up 0 space. So it can help really speed up your website. Yeah, it's not necessarily going to happen, and I know that because it is my dream to make everyone use OS fonts, but something to consider when you're building things. And like we mentioned earlier, responsiveness is key. Google mentioned over the past couple of years that they've noticed that almost 60% of search queries are happening on a mobile-based device. So it just makes sense to really focus on mobile over desktop. And that's not to say that desktop is dying. It's just it's way too easy to drive in a car with your buddy and look up where the Art Institute is and figure out how to get here. I'm not pulling out my laptop while I'm in the car with my buddy who is driving and trying to figure out where the Art Institute is. If we were in a bigger metropolitan area where buses and subways were a little more frequent, I'm sure people are sitting on their computers, reading Facebook, looking up things, trying to figure out how to get their garage door fixed. So you want to make sure that whatever you're delivering works on mobile.
And it's good to think about your mobile site from the beginning when you're planning websites. It's really easy for mobile to just become an afterthought. You design the homepage, and then you start building it, and then you get to the point where it's like, oh, I didn't really think about what I was going to do when this thing gets smaller. So it's good to start from the planning phase, designing your mobile website.
So the things that we really want to make sure that you guys are taking away from this is think about the robots and the humans simultaneously. We kind of jokingly in the office call this like the two-part algorithm, because Google's based off of a bunch of algorithms. If you start really diving into SEO, you'll start learning more and more about said algorithms. But basically, Google updates twice a day from its main algorithm that it uses to rank people. So meeting both standards. If you're only pleasing robots, you're not pleasing humans. If you're pleasing humans, you're probably not pleasing robots. So you have to kind of find that middle ground.
There's definitely a balance.
Content hierarchy is absolutely crucial. If users or search engines don't know what you're talking about, there's no point in showing you.
Structured and consistent navigation and link styles are very important too. They just make it easy to navigate through your site, easy to find information, and that's why websites are there, to provide information to people.
And just since you guys are in this design field, one thing that we can really hammer away at, spend your time learning some SEO if you can. It just makes you a more valuable designer when you're in the job hunt. If you can say, yeah, I know web design and SEO, you've got a good leg up on the competition. So.
And in the end, just always think of the user experience. Always ask yourself, would the user want to see this here?
And lastly, when you're strategizing, make sure that you are absolutely thinking about how everything's going to work on different platforms. Be responsive. Here's some recommended posts, which we'll send this presentation, you guys. You don't have to write down a bit.ly link or anything. So the top two are from our website. It's an article I wrote up on what makes SEO so kind of difficult to comprehend. A bunch of videos from a bunch of leading industry people kind of giving their perspective on it as well. The second blog talks about kind of the two-part algorithm that we mentioned and how UX can really have a big effect on SEO. And then down here, it's called The Beginner's Guide to SEO. It's from a company called Moz, which is a software platform within the SEO industry. We have every person that comes into our company new read this. It's just a really good overview of what SEO is.
Yeah, there's a lot of good info on there.
On the right, that's a bunch of blogs that my team reads pretty much every day. It's important to stay relevant and up to date on new standards and trends in SEO. So these are some good ones to look at. Obviously, ours is the best, so make sure that you hit there first. We just implemented a new editorial calendar, so it's going to be really good. Inbound.org is actually kind of like a Reddit specifically for digital marketing, so it's pretty cool and gets real nerdy if you ever really want to hit that route. Because Reddit is not the best place for SEO. There's some really bad subreddits for SEO. Big SEO is a good one if you're into. Our SEO is horrible. And if you're looking for basically the Bible of SEO, something super dense that I haven't even finished, The Art of SEO is excellent, but like I said, it's pretty dense. It's not something you kick back on with a fire going and drink some coffee and read. Like, you got to be prepared to do some highlighting with that bad boy. Yeah, it's really good. And the people that made it are really good people too. Pretty proud that we made this slide happen. Are there any questions?
So just going back to content, does that also go far into naming your files as well? Like, let's say there's someone with a guitar, as mentioned earlier, naming that photo file as guy-with-guitar.jpg.
That's not bad. That's a great route to go, because then you're doing nothing but giving search engines more information that, let's say someone does a search for guy with guitar, your image might actually show up in a standard SERP and not just an image SERP. So, yeah.
As well as like updating content, things like that. Like let's say I'm on SoundCloud, would updating your content or like what you have, does that also help as well?
Content freshness is key. What we typically do, we put out a blog post, monitor it for a few months, look at how people are interacting with it. We'll even do a heat map, which there are tools out there that you can put on your page to see how people actually interact with the page, either through recordings or seeing where they're clicking, and how far down the page they're getting. If you do this, you get some very valuable insights. Then we figure out pain points, fix those, and then even update content as necessary. You can update a code in the back end that says it's a modified file, so then it knows that it's topically relevant and up to date.
When it comes to like your navigation, do y'all change a lot with the trends, or do y'all kind of stick with one and then maybe change it up a little bit? But I know you say you want it pretty consistent all the way through, but you know, does that change a lot?
We usually try to stay, I mean, people have a pretty good understanding of what a site navigation is. I mean, links are either at the top or sometimes, mainly in the past, they've been on the left. But today's websites, they're usually at the top near the logo. We just usually try to follow those best practices. If people are used to it, might as well not change it, you know, especially if it's like a website for a plumber or an electrician. It might be different on like a portfolio website, you know, you can get a little creative there. I think people expect that, but I would just stick to the norms.
That's the real trick. That's where things get weird, because like my website moving into the job market was very graphic design focused, so it was, here's all my projects. Do write-ups on your projects, what they were for, talk about it a little bit. I'm a big fan of the band Coheed and Cambria. My senior project in university was a redesign of a vinyl box set that went with the story of their albums. There was like 2 days where I ranked for Coheed and Cambria box set on my website, which I'm sure pissed off some nerds because it doesn't actually exist. So, and then I quit ranking for it because they got there, were mad, left, and there you go. So yeah, I would do some write-ups on what you're doing, talk about yourself, and figure out what you want people to look at when you get there.
Yeah, it might be good to do a little bit of keyword research and figure out what you want to be found for and start there and then write your content around that research.
Google actually has a tool called Keyword Planner that's free with a Google account. You can go into it, click on it, and it'll give you some somewhat vague information on searches per month and kind of pricing for PPC. If you do PPC, they'll give you a little bit more detailed information, but they don't want to give you everything all at once.
So as far as you said researching, like the words
Mm-hmm.
pop up, how do you go about doing that? What do you think the best way is to figure out what someone's going to search so you have?
We use some tools, some paid tools. One called SEMrush. That one's really good, kind of industry standard sort of thing. I mentioned Moz earlier. One of their pro platforms includes a keyword research tool. So there's paid avenues that you can go. Obviously, you're not really going to want to go that route unless you work for an agency like us. There's a tool called answerthepublic.com. I believe it's .com. You go to it, it has this weird, creepy old guy on the front. You click US, you say, I'm looking for bicycles, and it'll give you questions that people across the internet are asking regarding bicycles or whatever topic that you've put in. That's a good place to go. You're not going to get like keyword volume or anything like that, but if people are looking for it, you might as well answer it. The Keyword Planner tool in Google is a great place to go. And SEMrush actually gives you a vague amount of free information if you try that. So SEMrush.com. Sure, yeah.
You mentioned the analytics part, where you can go into Google and see everything. How do you get to that?
You go to analytics.google.com. There will be, if you have a Google or Gmail account, it's free. There will be a button in the top right corner that says Add Property. You would add your website to it. It'll give you a code. I recommend, it's an alternate version. It's a line of HTML. You put it in your head file. across your website or before the closing header, and then it will pick up user information for every page across your site, and then you just go to analytics and play around. They also have a free academy training. I think it's Analytics Academy. And you can actually get analytics certified or AdWords certified if you're looking to do PPC through there.
Yeah, there's a little bit of setup to it, but once you get it set up, it's really useful.
Yeah.
Whenever you talk about the instant answers, so whenever you type in a question, I know
Mhm.
instant answers are used a lot. It's just so what really they just look at, they rank which website can give you that basic answer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so because I've noticed it's not a long answer, it's just kind of a quick answer.
It's really just kind of a toss up to make sure that you have the most relevant content to the question.
And I mean, so like basic questions, would you put an H1 tag on like a real quick answer to help get it in there, or?
You could, not necessarily. It tends to pull from body content, and list items are really good too. Yeah.
And with the keywords,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is it just good practice to, whenever you go through the keywords, you just use header tags to rank them? And is there other tags you use as well, or?
That's where we're lucky in that Google can kind of read and figure out what you're doing, because naturally as an SEO, my, let's say, lawyer's website would be best lawyer in San Antonio. That could be okay, but it really kind of depends on how people are searching in a general area. If you did something like San Antonio lawyer, or criminal defense lawyer, something like that, Google kind of puts the pieces together and figures it out. You're just kind of pushing them in the right direction. For the most part, a keyword tool, you're going to make a decision that's going to be a little strange at first. Well, there's been instances where I've seen pages that say like Austin TX plumber. Like, no one, that's weird. Like, I get it from a robot perspective, but then some human's going to get to it and go, okay, sure.
This isn't selling me very much.
Yeah. So,
One other quick question. Someone else has got a question. Go ahead.
I was gonna say we need to wrap up.
if you got more, hit me up.
Real quick. So whenever I do my planning for,
Mhm.
should I plan to make a mobile website first and a laptop second? Would that make sense? Or?
Do you have much experience with like media queries? And
I'm just now getting into that.
gotcha. Look into media queries. Media queries allow you to take a desktop website and say, once it's past like 1,000 pixels, I want to implement this new CSS, and then you can change the layout. And then once it gets to 600 pixels wide, I want to implement this new set of CSS, and so you can start to transform your website and make it smaller.
So, thank you for having us. Meet me outside. I have koozies if anyone wants one.